Hey there YouTube, Arvin69 here. Following on from the video I did about 4 weeks ago for the unboxing of the Xbox Series X, and I'll link that up here for you. We're going to be looking at storage on that console. Now there are proprietary first-party options available in the form of the Xbox memory card, but in my opinion, for what they are overpriced at the moment. So I was looking at other options to put onto the Xbox to increase the storage, as I tend to play a lot of Xbox One games, as there's not a great deal of next-gen console games released as of yet. So after doing some research, I decided to go with this. This is the Crucial MX500 2TB SSD, and I have paired that with the Ugreen USB-C external enclosure. Now I'll link the details for these down below, so if you do want to buy these, the links are down below for you from Amazon. Now the reason I went with the SSD option is because it's fast and it is a lot cheaper than the proprietary media that we mentioned before. I mean, this is a 2TB, and I think I paid something in the region of about £168 for this one, which is cheaper than the proprietary stuff. Now I did do some speed tests on this with my PC, and I'll link the image down below here of what the read and write tests came back as. And the whole point and the idea behind this is all my Xbox One games will be stored on this media, leaving the internal drive free for next-gen games when they are released. Now, to see if this is actually worth it, and if I didn't just waste my money and buy a lemon, essentially, I decided to run some speed tests of loading times and comparing it between consoles. Now, I've done this with physical games because I am a collector. I do have quite a few physical games around. So the ones I've chosen, we've got The Outer Worlds for Xbox One, we've got Doom Eternal, and we have the original Doom game. Now each of these I've installed on my old Xbox One, my Xbox Series X internal hard drive, and on the external hard drive. And what I'm going to do is put them up side by side and do a speed comparison of loading the game to the initial load screen, and then from there loading from a recent save into the actual game, and we'll see how the times all stack up. So without further ado, let's dive into the timings and let's see what we get. So there we are, as I expected. The timings on Doom show that the internal and the external SSD on the Xbox Series X have very much similar timings, whereas the load times on the original Xbox were quite long. So why don't we nip over to Doom Eternal and see how that one stacks up. So there we are, that is the timings for Doom Eternal, loading to title and loading a saved game. Now what I did notice there was loading to title, there wasn't that much of a difference between all three consoles. Admittedly, yes, the Series X was faster, but not by the great margin I was expecting. However, loading a saved game, as we saw there was quite a large margin in timings. The Xbox Series X internal and external SSDs were quite close, whereas the original Xbox One seriously lagged behind. So with that done, let's get on with the last game, which is The Outer Worlds. So there we are, that's the comparisons all done. Now what we'll do is we'll have a look at them all side by side and have a quick comparison. So there you go, as you can see, there is a difference obviously. As you'd expect, the Xbox Series X is faster at loading. However, when we look at the first graph of the load to title screen, we can see the difference in load times isn't actually that great between the Series X and the Xbox One. However, if we look at the graph below, when loading into a saved game, we can see there is a much bigger difference in load times between the Xbox One and the Series X. Now looking at the whole graphs in comparison, we can see that the external hard drive compared to the internal drive on the Series X, there's not a great deal in it, to be honest, so that was quite a surprise to me, if I'm honest. I was expecting the internal drive to outperform the external SSD. So I think with this in mind, all games that I get, including the possible Xbox Series X dedicated games, may then get installed to the SSD. We'll have to see how performance lasts when we get those games. So there we are, that is all the comparisons done and dusted. If you enjoyed the video, please smack the thumbs up or the thumbs down button, but please leave me a comment below, let me know what you thought. Were you as shocked as I was about the SSD drive? I'd like to know your responses and your comments on this. And also, if you can subscribe to the channel and ring the bell, helps out immensely. Until next time, take care.